Maya Williams walked through the grand doors of the Galactic Council building. The massive crystal walls reached high above her head, sparkling with strange alien lights. She could hear dozens of different alien languages being spoken around her. What the aliens didn't know was that Maya understood every single word they were saying. She had spent years learning their languages in secret. For 30 long years, Earth had been playing a dangerous game. They made themselves look weak and helpless while alien species grew bolder and more aggressive. Maya straightened her blue diplomatic jacket and walked toward the center of the room where the council met. The council chamber was enormous. Alien beings of all shapes and sizes sat in floating chairs arranged in a perfect circle. Some looked like giant lizards, others had multiple arms or glowing eyes. In the center sat Councillor Vextal, a tall reptilian creature with sharp teeth and cold yellow eyes. Vextal's voice echoed through the chamber as he made his announcement. His tone was fake and mocking, like someone pretending to be sorry when they're actually happy about what happened. "We have some unfortunate news to report today," Vextal said, his forked tongue flicking out as he spoke. "During our routine military training exercises in Sector 7, there was a small accident. A human research station was accidentally destroyed." Maya felt her heart sink. She knew that research station well. It was home to 200 of Earth's brightest scientists and researchers. Among them was her own nephew Jerome, a brilliant young physicist who had been working on new energy systems. These weren't just numbers in a report, these were real people with families and dreams. She counted slowly in her head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was a technique she had learned long ago to control her anger in diplomatic situations. Her hands were shaking slightly, but her voice remained calm and professional when she spoke. "The United Earth Coalition formally requests full compensation for our lost personnel and equipment," Maya said, standing up from her chair. "I must point out that this marks the 47th so-called accidental destruction of human facilities this year alone." The number hung in the air like a challenge. 47 attacks in 1 year. Each one had been called an accident, a training mishap, or a navigation error. But Maya knew the truth. These aliens were testing human patience, seeing how much they could get away with. Around the chamber, alien council members began making strange chittering and clicking sounds. Maya recognized this as their version of laughter. They found human complaints amusing, like adults watching a child throw a tantrum. To them, humans were nothing more than a primitive species that responded to violence with paperwork and formal protests. Vextal leaned back in his floating chair, his yellow eyes gleaming with amusement. "Of course, Ambassador Williams. We deeply regret this unfortunate incident. Your complaint will be processed through the proper diplomatic channels, just like all the others." The way he said proper channels made it clear that nothing would actually happen. Maya had filed dozens of these complaints over the years. Each one had been buried under layers of bureaucracy and forgotten. The aliens knew that humans would complain, file reports, and then do nothing else. Maya stood up slowly, her dark brown eyes moving from one alien face to another. The chamber grew quieter as she prepared to speak. There was something different in her posture now, something that made even the most arrogant council members pay attention. "This is Earth's final diplomatic communication regarding these attacks," she said clearly. Her voice carried across the chamber without any electronic amplification. "Stop attacking our people and our facilities, or we will stop pretending to be courteous." The silence that followed was complete. No clicking, no chittering, no whispered conversations in alien languages. Every being in that chamber stared at the small human woman who had just delivered what sounded like a threat. Then, slowly, the laughter began. First one alien, then another, until the entire chamber echoed with the sound of dozens of species laughing at the same time. They slapped their various appendages on their desks and made the alien equivalent of wiping tears from their eyes. To them, Maya's warning was the funniest thing they had heard all year. The idea that weak, peaceful humans might stop being polite was hilarious. What were humans going to do, file an angry complaint instead of a polite one? Maya didn't react to their laughter. She simply gathered her papers, tucked them into her briefcase, and walked calmly toward the exit. Her footsteps echoed in the crystal chamber as the aliens continued laughing behind her. What none of them realized was that Maya's warning had just activated a plan that had been 30 years in the making. As she walked through those grand crystal doors for what would be the last time as Earth's humble ambassador, hidden transmitters throughout the galaxy began sending coded messages to humans who had been waiting patiently for this exact moment. The laughter in the council chamber would soon turn to shocked silence, but for now, the aliens continued finding humanity's final warning absolutely hilarious. Admiral James Carter was standing in what looked like the control room of an ordinary cargo ship. The walls were painted a dull gray color, and everything looked old and worn down on purpose. But Carter wasn't fooled by the appearance. He knew exactly what this ship really was underneath its fake exterior. 3 hours had passed since Maya Williams delivered her final warning to the Galactic Council. Carter had been waiting for her coded message, and when it finally came through on his personal communicator, he felt a mix of relief and anticipation. The waiting was finally over. The bridge around him was much larger than it appeared from the outside. Hidden panels lined the walls, and sophisticated computer systems hummed quietly behind false walls. Carter walked over to his command console and picked up the communication device that would change everything. All units across all sectors, this is Command Central, he spoke clearly into the microphone. His voice was calm but carried the weight of authority that came from years of military experience. Ambassador Williams has delivered the final ultimatum to the Alien Council. I repeat, the ultimatum has been delivered. Authorization code Omega-77 is now active. Execute Phase 1 immediately. The message went out instantly across 17 different star systems. In space stations, on planets, and aboard ships scattered throughout the galaxy, humans who had been waiting patiently for years suddenly sprang into action. What happened next was something the aliens had never seen before and couldn't have imagined in their worst nightmares. 43 ships that looked like harmless cargo vessels carrying food and supplies suddenly began to change. These weren't really merchant ships at all, they were some of the most advanced warships ever built by human hands. The transformation was incredible to watch. Each ship powered down the holographic projectors that had been creating fake images around them for years. The dull gray metal disappeared, revealing sleek black hulls underneath. Weapon systems that had been carefully hidden began extending from the sides of the ships. Advanced shield generators came online with a low humming sound that could be felt through the ship's hull. Where peaceful cargo haulers had been floating in space just moments before, deadly warships now hung in the void like predators ready to strike. These ships carried weapons that no alien species had ever encountered before, technology that seemed impossible even to the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. Lieutenant Keisha Rodriguez sat at the communication station, her fingers flying over the control panels as messages poured in from across the galaxy. Her screens were lighting up with incoming transmissions from panicked alien military commanders who couldn't understand what they were seeing. "Admiral," she called out, her voice tense with excitement. "We're receiving hundreds of emergency broadcasts from alien fleets. They're completely confused about what's happening. The Vextal battle group is sending desperate requests for backup and reinforcements." Carter settled into his command chair, which had been disguised as a simple cargo supervisor's seat but was actually connected to the most advanced tactical computer system human technology could produce. He looked at the main display screen, which showed the positions of alien and human forces throughout nearby space. "It's far too late for reinforcements now," Carter said with a slight smile. "For 30 long years, we've been pretending to be nothing more than simple farmers and peaceful merchants. We've let them think we were weak and helpless. Now it's time to show them what human politeness really means when we stop holding ourselves back." The first attack came without any warning at all. Human weapons systems that had been developed in secret for decades fired their opening shots. 3 massive Vextal cruiser ships, each one larger than a city block, simply disappeared in flashes of brilliant light. The aliens didn't even have time to raise their defensive shields. These weren't ordinary weapons that fired bullets or energy beams. Human scientists had developed technology that could actually bend and twist space itself. When these weapons hit an alien ship, they turned the ship's own metal armor into a crushing weight that destroyed it from the inside out. Captain Malik Washington's voice came through the communication system from his position in Sector 12, hundreds of light years away from Carter's location. His tone was professional but satisfied. "Admiral, this is Captain Washington reporting. Sector 12 has been completely secured. The alien dreadnought they called Invincible lasted exactly 4 to 7 seconds against our new weapons systems." Carter nodded grimly as he absorbed this information. The number 4 to 7 had special meaning. It was the same number of human facilities the aliens had destroyed in their fake accidents over the past year. Now they were learning what real consequences looked like. "Excellent work, Captain," Carter replied. "All units, this is command. Phase 1 is complete. Begin Phase 2 operations immediately. It's time to show these aliens just how deep human politeness really goes when we decide to stop being so considerate." Across the galaxy, human forces that had been hiding in plain sight for 3 decades finally revealed their true nature. The aliens were about to learn that when humans said they were being polite, they had actually been showing incredible restraint. The emergency alarm was blaring throughout the Galactic Council building. Red lights flashed on every wall as alien leaders rushed into the main chamber, their faces showing panic and confusion. This was supposed to be an ordinary day, but everything had changed in just a few hours. Massive holographic screens filled the air above the council table, each one showing a different part of the galaxy. What the aliens saw on those screens made their blood run cold. Human forces were systematically destroying alien military ships and bases with a precision that seemed impossible. Ships that had taken decades to build were being eliminated in seconds. Commander Zexith, a tall crystalline being whose body normally glowed with soft blue light, was now crackling with bright red stress patterns. His voice rose to almost a scream as he pointed at the displays. "This cannot be happening. This is completely impossible," he shouted, his crystal body vibrating with shock. "These humans are using weapons that manipulate gravity itself. That kind of technology requires thousands of years of advanced scientific development. No primitive species could possibly achieve such capabilities without centuries of..." His words were cut off by a calm, steady voice that seemed to come from everywhere at once. "Actually, we have had centuries to develop this technology." Every alien head in the chamber turned toward the source of the voice. In the center of the room, a holographic projection began to form. The image showed a tall human woman with dark skin and confident eyes. She was standing in what appeared to be a command center, wearing a crisp military uniform. "Good evening, council members," said Director Angela Thompson with the kind of polite tone someone might use when greeting neighbors at a dinner party. "I am Director Thompson of the Earth Defense Initiative. I thought it was time we had an honest conversation." Behind Angela, the aliens could see through a massive window. What they had always believed was a simple mining platform was transforming before their eyes. The structure was unfolding like a giant metal flower, revealing layer after layer of weapons systems. Each weapon array was larger than most alien battleships. The aliens stared in stunned silence as Angela continued speaking in that same calm, conversational tone. "I should probably clear up some misconceptions you've had about humanity. We actually achieved faster-than-light space travel over 400 years ago. We've been out here in the galaxy much longer than you realized." The implications of her words hit the council members like a physical punch to the stomach. 400 years meant that humans had been traveling between stars since before most of the current alien civilizations had even discovered electricity. "During all that time, we've been watching you," Angela continued, as if she were discussing the weather. "We learned all of your languages, studied your military tactics, analyzed your political systems, and carefully noted your strengths and weaknesses. Every single human you have ever encountered has been collecting information about your species." Commander Zexith's crystalline form was now flashing between different colors as his stress levels reached dangerous heights. "Every human? But that would mean..." "Yes, it means exactly what you think it means," Angela confirmed with a slight smile. "Every human diplomat who sat in your council meetings was gathering intelligence. Every human trader who sold you goods was studying your economic systems. Every human researcher who visited your universities was learning about your technology and scientific capabilities. Every human tourist who admired your art was actually mapping your cities and defense systems." The alien council members began looking at each other with growing horror. For generations, they had welcomed humans into their most secure facilities, shared their most advanced technologies, and discussed their military strategies in front of human observers. They had thought they were showing off their superiority to primitive visitors. "But wait, there's more," Angela said, her tone becoming slightly amused. "All that cargo we've been shipping between our worlds? Those weren't agricultural products and mining equipment like we told you. Those were weapon components, military supplies, and advanced technology being moved into strategic positions throughout the galaxy." On the holographic displays around the chamber, the aliens could see human forces continuing their systematic advance across multiple star systems. Ships that had once been the terror of entire sectors were being disabled and captured with surgical precision. "And those trade agreements you thought were so favorable to your species," Angela continued. "We were actually using them to purchase specific minerals and rare elements needed for our war machines. You've been supplying us with the materials we needed to build the weapons we're using against you right now." Several alien council members were making distressed noises in their native languages. The scope of human deception was becoming clear, and it was far more comprehensive than they could have imagined. "Even our cultural exchange programs served a military purpose," Angela explained. "When your young people came to study on Earth, we were learning about your psychology and social structures. When you sent your artists and musicians to perform for us, we were analyzing your communication methods and cultural weaknesses. Commander Zexitha's voice had dropped to barely a whisper, his crystal form now flickering between dim blue and dark purple. But why? Why did you pretend to be weak and peaceful for so long? Angela's expression became more serious, but her voice remained calm and controlled. Because, Commander, when humans say we are being courteous and polite, what we actually mean is that we are actively holding ourselves back from doing what comes most naturally to our species. The chamber fell completely silent except for the quiet humming of the holographic projectors. Every alien was hanging on her next words. And what comes naturally to humans? Zexith asked, though his voice suggested he already knew the answer would terrify him. Angela's smile never changed, but somehow it became much more frightening. What comes naturally to humans, Commander, is winning. The Vextal homeworld had always been considered the most secure planet in the galaxy. Massive defensive platforms surrounded it like a protective shell, each one armed with enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. The aliens had spent centuries building these defenses, and they believed nothing could break through them. 12 hours ago, that belief had been shattered completely. Captain Jerome Washington stood on the observation deck of humanity's flagship, looking out through the reinforced windows at the destruction below. Where mighty orbital defense platforms had once floated in perfect formation, now only twisted metal and debris drifted silently through space. The transformation had been swift and absolute. The human flagship itself was an impressive sight. What had appeared to be a simple transport vessel just days before had revealed its true form, a massive command ship bristling with advanced technology. The observation deck offered a clear view of the Vextal planet below, where hundreds of small evacuation ships were fleeing the surface like insects escaping from a disturbed nest. Captain Washington, called Sergeant Rita Johnson from her position at the communications console. Her voice carried a mix of professional calm and underlying excitement. We're receiving multiple transmission requests from the planetary government down there. They're asking about terms for surrender. Jerome turned away from the window, his dark face serious but satisfied. He had been preparing for this moment for over 20 years, ever since he first received his assignment to infiltrate alien society. Now, finally, the waiting and pretending were over. Very well, Sergeant, he replied, walking over to the main command console. Send them our standard response. We will accept nothing less than unconditional surrender from every single alien species that participated in attacks against human facilities and personnel over the past several years. He paused, making sure his next words were clearly understood. They must also agree to pay full compensation for all damages and lives lost. All military activities must stop immediately. And most importantly, they must accept human supervision during their rebuilding process. Sergeant Johnson nodded as she prepared to transmit the message. But before she could send it, she had one more question. Sir, what if they refuse our terms? What if they try to negotiate or demand better conditions? Jerome gestured toward the tactical display screen that dominated one wall of the command center. The screen showed a real-time view of space around the Vextal homeworld. Dozens of human warships were systematically hunting down and disabling the remaining alien fleet vessels. It was like watching a pack of wolves surrounding helpless sheep. Look around you, Sergeant, Jerome said with a slight smile. Do you really think they have any choice in the matter? Their most powerful defenses lasted less than half a day against our forces. Their fleet is being dismantled piece by piece as we speak. They can surrender gracefully, or they can watch everything they've built turn to space debris. Meanwhile, hundreds of light years away, Colonel Diana Brooks was coordinating an operation that would shock the galaxy even more than the military victories. She stood on the bridge of her assault vessel, surrounded by communication screens showing reports from across dozens of different worlds. Phase 3 is proceeding perfectly, reported one of her officers. All sleeper agents have activated simultaneously across 47 different star systems. They are taking control of government buildings, military bases, and economic centers exactly as planned. What was happening across the galaxy was something no alien species had ever imagined possible. For decades, humans had been living among them as merchants, researchers, cultural exchange students, and diplomatic attachés. These humans had seemed harmless, friendly people interested in learning about alien cultures and conducting peaceful business. But now the truth was being revealed. Every single one of these humans had been a carefully trained operative, placed in strategic positions throughout alien society. They had been waiting patiently for this moment, building relationships, gaining trust, and slowly working their way into positions of influence and access. On the planet Zephyr Prime, a human who had run a popular restaurant for 15 years suddenly revealed a hidden weapons cache and took control of the planetary communication center. On the industrial world of Titan 7, a human mining engineer who had worked there for 2 decades activated secret explosives that disabled the entire military spaceport. The reports kept coming in, each one more stunning than the last. A human art dealer on the cultural capital of Andromeda 4 had somehow gained access to the planetary defense grid and shut it down completely. A human scientist working at the Central Research Institute had been secretly copying military blueprints for 30 years. An alien intelligence officer, his voice shaking with fear, transmitted a desperate report to his superiors. The scope of their infiltration is beyond anything we thought possible. They call it a sleeper network. According to our preliminary analysis, they've been placing operatives throughout our society for over 3 centuries. Every major government, every military installation, every economic center, every research facility, they have people in key positions everywhere. The speed and coordination of the operation was breathtaking to witness. Within 72 hours of Admiral Carter's original order, every alien species that had participated in attacks against human assets found themselves in the same desperate situation. Their military forces were either completely destroyed or under direct human control. Their governments were paralyzed. Their economic systems had been shut down. The humans had turned the galaxy's own infrastructure into a weapon against its original owners. Systems that had taken centuries to build were now being used to enforce human will across dozens of worlds. Finally, Admiral Carter himself appeared on communication screens throughout the galaxy. His message was broadcast simultaneously to every alien government, every military command center, and every major population center. The message was brief, but its impact was enormous. To all alien civilizations currently receiving this transmission, Carter began, his voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. We are not conquerors seeking to rule over you. We are not invaders looking to steal your territory or enslave your people. He paused, letting his words sink in across thousands of worlds. We are disciplinarians. We are teachers showing you the consequences of poor behavior. Learn the difference, because your future depends on understanding it completely. The message ended, leaving the galaxy in stunned silence as alien leaders everywhere contemplated their new reality. 6 months had passed since humanity revealed its true nature to the galaxy. The same crystal walls still surrounded the Galactic Council chamber, reaching high toward the ceiling like frozen lightning. The building looked exactly the same as it always had, but everything else was completely different. Ambassador Maya Williams walked slowly through the grand entrance doors, her footsteps echoing softly on the polished floor. She wore the same type of diplomatic uniform she had always worn, but now it carried a weight and authority that hadn't been there before. The aliens who passed her in the hallways no longer looked at her with amusement or dismissal. Instead, their eyes showed something that had never been there in the past, genuine respect mixed with careful fear. The atmosphere inside the council chamber had transformed completely. Where alien voices had once carried tones of arrogance and superiority, now there was polite cooperation and careful consideration for every word spoken. The change was so dramatic that someone visiting for the first time might think they had walked into an entirely different building. The proposed trade agreement between the Zephyrian Collective and the Centauri Mining Consortium has been reviewed and approved by all parties involved, announced President Michael Roberts, standing at the central podium. Roberts had been an admiral in the Earth Defense Force just months earlier, but now he served as Earth's primary representative to the rebuilt council. His military bearing and commanding presence made it clear that diplomacy had taken on a very different meaning. Maya took her seat at what was now positioned as the head of the council table. This wasn't something she had requested or demanded, the surviving alien governments had actually insisted on this arrangement themselves. They wanted to make absolutely certain that human authority was recognized and respected by everyone in the chamber. The seating arrangement told the whole story of how power had shifted in the galaxy. Where humans had once been given a small, insignificant chair tucked away in a corner, now Maya sat in the most prominent position. The alien representatives arranged themselves in careful order around the table, with the most cooperative species sitting closest to the human delegation. Former Commander Zexith, the crystalline being who had once mocked human complaints, now spoke with a humble tone that would have been unimaginable just months earlier. His crystal body, which had once glowed with confident blue light, now showed only dim, submissive colors. Ambassador Williams, he said carefully, I am pleased to report that the reconstruction of Sector 7 research facility is proceeding ahead of schedule. The new station will have 3 times the research capacity of the previous facility that was destroyed in our unfortunate training accident. The way he said unfortunate training accident made it clear that everyone now understood what those incidents had really been. They were no longer pretending these had been genuine accidents. "Thank you for the report, Counselor Zexith," Maya replied with the same polite tone she had always used. "President Roberts, could you please update us on the status of our new protection protocols for developing civilizations?" Roberts consulted his notes before responding. "The protection protocols have been fully implemented across all member worlds in the galaxy. No species that has not yet achieved interstellar travel capability will be contacted or interfered with in any way without explicit human oversight and approval. The old practice of testing weaker civilizations to see how they respond to aggression has been permanently discontinued." Maya nodded with satisfaction as she looked around the table. Representatives from species that had once terrorized entire sectors of space now sat quietly, waiting respectfully for her approval of their various proposals and reports. The transformation was so complete that it was sometimes hard to believe these were the same beings who had laughed at her warnings just 6 months earlier. "Thank you all for your reports and cooperation," Maya said as she stood up gracefully. "This session of the Galactic Council is now adjourned. I want everyone to remember something important: courtesy and politeness are choices that humans make. We prefer to choose courtesy whenever possible, but we are not required to do so." The alien representatives filed out of the chamber quietly, their various forms of communication creating a low murmur that was respectful rather than dismissive. Maya remained behind, walking over to the massive transparent wall that offered a view of the stars beyond. The sight was beautiful and peaceful, exactly the kind of galaxy that humanity had always hoped to be part of. Captain Jerome Washington approached from the back of the chamber, his military boots making soft clicking sounds on the crystal floor. He had been observing the council session from the security area, making sure everything proceeded smoothly. "Maya," he said quietly, using her first name now that they were alone. "Do you ever have any doubts about how we handled this whole situation? Any regrets about the methods we used?" Maya considered his question carefully, staring out at the distant stars as she thought about everything that had led to this moment. She remembered her nephew Devon and the 200 other researchers who had died in that final so-called training accident. She thought about all the other human facilities that had been destroyed over the years, all the lives that had been lost while humanity tried to maintain diplomatic relations. "We gave them 30 full years of chances to change their behavior," she said finally, her voice calm but firm. "We tried courtesy first. We tried diplomacy, negotiation, and peaceful protest. We filed formal complaints and requested compensation through proper channels. They chose to interpret our kindness and patience as signs of weakness." She turned away from the window, her expression peaceful but determined. Now they understand the difference between human courtesy and human capability. And more importantly, every other species in the galaxy is watching and learning the same lesson. Outside the council building, human patrol ships moved silently through the darkness of space. Their weapon systems were powered down and inactive, but everyone knew they were ready to respond instantly if needed. Peace, it had turned out, was much easier to maintain when everyone clearly understood the consequences of breaking it. The galaxy had learned a simple but important truth about dealing with humans. When humans said please and thank you, they genuinely meant it. They preferred cooperation and mutual respect to conflict and domination. But they only offered courtesy once. After that, they offered something much more direct and much less pleasant. The age of testing human patience was over. The age of galactic cooperation under human guidance had begun.